Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, May 24th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. If you spent time outside today, you felt the heat beating down probably. We're heading into the unofficial start of summer, and with that comes California's fire season. Melissa May tells us about an unprecedented push to get firefighters ready.
A record 4 million acres were overtaken by wildfires in 2020. For 2021, Governor Gavin Newsom wants to make a record-breaking $2 billion investment in wildfire preparations, including the addition of 7 C-130s and 12 Firehawk helicopters.
These fly much faster, they allow for more suppression, and they're a lot more safe, which is significant for our CAL FIRE brothers and sisters and their safety. These are an important part of our civil aerial firefighting fleet, which is the largest in the world.
Newsom also wants to hire nearly 1,400 new firefighters. Southern California's already dealt with a number of wildfires this month, like this one in Escondido on Saturday. It burned about 7 acres next to Interstate 15.
You already saw those red flag warnings, which are earlier in May than we've seen in many, many years because the winds that are coming earlier. So let us all be mindful and let us all be prepared.
The proposal also includes some long-range planning.
And then looking medium and long-term at addressing the deficit in terms of our efforts on forest health, forest management, fuels management, as well as fire breaks all up and down the state of California.
And Newsom says Californians can do their part to prepare for this already active wildfire season.
The importance of defensible spaces. If you have not cleaned out the front yard, your backyard, and look at a defensible space, I want to remind everybody of the imperative to do just that.
Melissa May, KPBS News.
In an effort to keep more local restaurants from closing, one county supervisor is pushing a dine-in and help-out plan. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer tells us how public money would give these small businesses a boost.
Supervisor Jim Desmond has proposed $50 million of the county's COVID-19 federal relief be allocated to go towards what he calls the Dine Out and Help Out restaurant program. A similar program was created in the United Kingdom, which allowed customers to receive 50% off their meals or up to $10 per person. Restaurants are then reimbursed the full price of the meal through government payments. Lakeside Cafe owner Claudia Ortiz says a San Diego County program would help to offset challenges her business has recently faced, such as a customer base that is below pre-pandemic levels and a food supply chain that's become very unpredictable.
There was things that we had to remove off of our menu because we couldn't find, that we didn't have available, that our vendors didn't have available, or they were either just too pricey, and it was like, hey, you know what, that can wait.
Desmond says the program will be offered on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and the only caveat is that alcohol will not be a refundable purchase.
So restaurants will have to sign up for this and register with the county that they're doing this. Then they'd have to submit their receipts or show us the discounts that they were given on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to patrons. Show us those discounts, and then out of this money, we actually asked for $50 million to be set aside, which is a big number. But we hopefully, and then once we burn through that, it would be over.
Ortiz says the money would help her business continue to bounce back and help customers who otherwise couldn't afford to eat at a restaurant due to economic hardship.
I love it because if it's something that can benefit the servers or employees, to gather more employees and provide food for other people who are not in the best circumstances, that's amazing.
The supervisors will vote on whether to enact the Dine Out and Help Out program on June 8th. If approved, Desmond says he plans for a start date of June 15th to coincide with the state's loosening of COVID-19 restrictions. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
KPBS has a new series featuring independently run restaurants. We call it City Heights Bites. This week we explore Vietnamese vegetarian cuisine and meet the owners trying to thrive post-pandemic. That's coming up in this newscast. And grabbing a bite out might include fewer plastic straws and utensils in Vista. The North County city is taking steps to impose a new ban on single-use plastic utensils. KPBS's Alexander Nguyen tells us why some small businesses say now is not the time.
Business is starting to pick up again for Dale Guinness at his restaurant When Pigs Fly Barbecue. But Guinness is worried that a proposed plastic ban in the city would cause small business owners like him, still recovering from the pandemic, to go out of business.
We've had to absorb so much over the last year already with the pandemic. My major concern is, it's just an expense that I know it might not sound like it, but that could actually push us over the edge.
That's a concern that Vista Council member Karina Contreras says the City Council takes very seriously. But she thinks now is the time for businesses to become environmentally friendly.
The market has really provided to businesses new ways of doing takeout, right? Where polystyrene is not the only product out there in the market to address takeout needs.
Under the proposal brought forth by Contreras, Vista would require businesses to offer plastic utensils and straws only upon request starting this summer. The ban on polystyrene or styrofoam would go into effect July 2023. Councilmember John Franklin says he thinks the city should provide a waiver for small businesses still recovering from the pandemic.
I think it's important that we have a strong marriage of environmentally conscious policies and real effort to reduce post-consumer waste, while at the same time, we don't level large unintended taxes on small business people.
In a compromise, the City Council orders staff to develop a hardship policy and bring it for consideration at the June City Council meeting. In Vista, Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
At least 25 states plus Washington, D.C. have now fully vaccinated at least half of their adult residents. And new numbers show almost half the total U.S. population has at least one shot. Isabel Rosales explains how these milestones have helped some return to pre-pandemic activities.
The United States is on the rebound.
Runner, please.
CDC data shows 25 states plus EC have now fully vaccinated at least half of their adults against COVID-19, with Maine leading the pack.
As we keep doing this, I think it's a great thing.
Average new COVID-19 cases are about half of what they were 3 weeks ago, and the 7-day death average down by more than 20% compared to a month ago.
The CDC has shown that the science shows if you're vaccinated, you're protected.
The progress sparking reopenings.
There's nothing better than a full restaurant, a full bar.
And sights not seen since before the pandemic.
Phil defeats Father Time.
Phil Mickelson becomes the oldest golfer to win a major and is surrounded by this large crowd of fans.
Finally, the long wait is over.
New York's Madison Square Garden sold out. 15,000 fans watching the first round of the NBA playoffs and one of the largest indoor events for the state since the pandemic started.
What a sight, what an atmosphere.
While optimistic, health experts warn we can't let up on vaccinations.
And we're left with a residual group that aren't all necessarily opposed to vaccination, but they're not quite as motivated to be vaccinated.
Nationally, the average daily pace of vaccinations is down nearly 50% from its April peak, and a COVID-19 booster shot may be necessary, as researchers suspect the body's immunity might wane after a year or more.
Both the Pfizer and Moderna CEOs have come out and said that they believe booster shots are going to be needed.
In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
San Diego has a big Navy presence, and now the branch is offering more incentives for sailors who get the COVID-19 vaccine. Those include more freedom of movement at port calls and waiving the quarantine period before a deployment. The military is seeing a boost in vaccination rates in recent weeks. So far, more than 3.5 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine have been administered locally. County officials say we're at more than 70% of our goal of vaccinating eligible groups. You can track the progress and find a vaccine location close to you at kpbs.org. Just click on the vaccines link on our homepage. Kids can expect a new normal when they return to local schools in the fall. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong says in many ways it will feel like a pre-pandemic learning environment, but students should keep their masks handy.
San Diego Unified, the county's largest school district, will welcome back all students to campuses for full-time in-person instruction when the new school year starts in the fall, says School Board President Richard Barrera.
Parents who are ready to have their students come back, to in-person learning should expect it's going to look, like a typical schedule pre-COVID.
While class schedules might be back to normal, it's still possible that students will be wearing masks and some physical distancing will remain in place. This is because the state legislature is unlikely to pass a vaccination mandate before the new school year, and the State Department of Health has yet to say how its guidelines could change.
Those, guidelines around mask wearing, around distancing, around small cohorts, all of those, measures that are in place right now, we think, may look differently in the fall, and whatever they look like, either at the beginning or as, we go into the school year, we want to evolve, based on the CDPH guidelines.
Across the county, large districts like Poway Unified, Chula Vista Elementary, and Sweetwater Union High also plan on a full reopening. But these districts in San Diego Unified will still offer virtual instruction for families who prefer it. Barrera says the district will expand its online independent learning programs that existed before the pandemic.
If you look at, for instance, Mount Everest Academy, the full range of courses, are available to students, A to G courses, AP, all of the courses that students would have access to in person. We want to, as much as possible, replicate that online as well.
The district doesn't know what percentage of students will return to campuses in the fall, but Barrera says he expects class sizes to be back at pre-pandemic levels. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
California is emerging from the pandemic, but now we might be facing a loss of leadership. Some of the region's top healthcare officers are deciding to leave their positions. Coming up, they'll describe the burnout and threats they endured during this incredibly challenging time. The Yellow Whistle campaign, a nationwide effort to stand in solidarity with the Asian community, has made its way to Mira Mesa. Alexandra Rangel tells us more about the project.
Get your hands on a whistle and support this cause.
Councilman Chris Cade is continuing his efforts to fight against Asian hate by helping launch the Yellow Whistle campaign in Mira Mesa, a community where 1 in every 3 residents is Asian. When someone blows the whistle, it means someone is being attacked. It is a call for help.
The Yellow Whistle campaign began in New York City to boost security and solidarity for Asian Americans.
Kate is hoping to do the same across the county.
These yellow whistles will be another tool in our toolbox.
A recent study from Stop AAPI Hate reported a sharp rise in Asian hate crimes nationwide, with over 6,000 incidents reported in a year.
Do not be silent.
Lily Chang, chair of the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs of San Diego, is hoping the Yellow Whistle will help Asians feel protected and seen.
Asian Americans typically are very quiet, very silent, almost invisible.
From the Yellow Emperor to the Yellow River, as a Chinese American, Chang says the color yellow carries a rich history and she wears it with pride. But yellow is also a symbol of great peril for the Asian community.
Yellow has been used and has been weaponized as a way to get rid of the yellow people. The yellow people are dirty. The yellow people are not good enough. The yellow people bring diseases, and they're not the kind of people we want.
Chang is hoping to give the color a new meaning.
We would like to turn this yellow color around and call this not yellow peril, but yellow pride.
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
Refugees in San Diego County are facing an internet and tech crisis that isn't going to ease in a post-COVID-19 world. iNews Source reporter Roxana Popescu explains how that could hurt them economically.
With so much moving online during the pandemic, school, healthcare, work, knowing how to use the internet is more important than ever. And that's been a challenge for San Diego County refugees like Ala Taha. She says that computers, Wi-Fi, her laptop, they're all too hard.
No, my internet is not working, Wi-Fi. It's too hard. Yeah, for kids also too hard to sit down and talk for the laptop and watch Zoom and the attention to class is too hard for them and for me also.
At her home in El Cajon, Taha has been taking online classes and helping her two sons with remote school. Even with support from a case manager from a local nonprofit, she struggles with filling out online forms and reading websites. Experts say refugees who lack these skills are missing out on remote work, school, rent relief, and more. That's because they don't understand how these websites work, and in some cases, they can't even find them. Humaira Yusufi is with the nonprofit in City Heights, the Partnership for the Advancement of New Americans. She says it will be harder for some refugees to recover after the pandemic wanes.
Those are the folks that are going to be evicted from their homes. Those are the folks who are going to be dropping out of schools, all of those things. So I think it's going to definitely play out worse for those folks who have digital inequities.
As vaccination rates rise and the economy reopens, these families may get shut out, and being able to use the internet could make all the difference. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Roxana Popescu.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. The pandemic is waning and some healthcare leaders are deciding to step aside. Elizabeth Cohen tells us how some of that is playing out in Southern California.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Cameron Kaiser, Public Health Officer for the County of Riverside.
Dr. Cameron Kaiser loved his work in Riverside County, California, a political appointment he held for 9 years.
Today I signed orders continuing social distancing and face coverings in Riverside County.
When COVID-19 hit, he took action, implementing a mask mandate and social distancing orders that were more protective than the state's orders. And he helped with the federal quarantining of American citizens evacuated from Wuhan, China. And Kaiser canceled the lucrative Coachella Music Festival. But many people in Riverside County were not happy.
They objected pretty much to the entire gamut. Masks, social distancing.
You are trampling on the Constitution by agreeing to extend Dr. Kaiser's recommendation.
It got very ugly very quickly.
I received direct threats, I received some very ugly letters, and I received some messages which I'm not even going to dignify by talking about them on the air.
Kaiser is not alone. Public health officials say during the pandemic, they've been harassed like never before, just for doing their jobs.
People felt, in certain communities that their rights were being infringed upon by being asked to stay home and shelter in place or being asked to wear masks.
Since the pandemic began, more than 250 public health officials have left their posts, either fired, resigned, or retired early, according to the National Association of County and City Health Officials. Lori Freeman, CEO of the association, calling it an exodus.
We tracked the reasons why people were leaving, and we largely found that they were due to just extensive pressure, elected official interference with public health measures, and really kind of efforts to diminish the authority of public health officials during the pandemic when their leadership is really needed most.
Kaiser says that's exactly what happened to him.
You went into public health to do good. Were you surprised by the bitterness, the acrimony here?
We never really dealt with a situation where people simply told us to go jump in a lake when we had to make those necessary orders to protect society.
Within a month of Kaiser's mask mandate, the Riverside County Board of Supervisors rescinded his COVID-19 orders. After that, he says he was given fewer and fewer responsibilities. And 2 months ago, Kaiser was dismissed from his job, he says, without explanation. Despite all this, Kaiser still wants to help his community.
I'd like to stay in public health, but I know people who have just plain had it. And there were people who were doing good work and making solid contributions to the health of people in their communities. It really does break your heart to see a lot of good people chased out of the roles that they're in.
A loss of public health leadership at a critical time that will be hard to replace.
That was Elizabeth Cohen reporting. Besides public health, one area of medical care that is facing some of the most severe labor shortages is in the field of nursing. The pandemic and staffing issues are raising the stress levels of nurses, impacting their job satisfaction and driving many nurses to leave the profession. You might have heard of states offering lottery jackpots for those who get vaccinated. Now, a major airline is offering its own incentive. United customers will be eligible for a year's worth of free travel. They'll need to upload a proof of vaccination on United's website or app by June 22nd. 5 people will be chosen for the year of free travel. Some will also win round-trip flights for 2 anywhere in the world. It was another busy weekend for air travel. The TSA reports passenger screenings were 90% of 2019 levels. It was the busiest weekend since the pandemic. Memorial Day weekend will be even busier. Jessica Pash has an early look at the forecast.
We're going to see a return to some warmer temperatures for most of you, but some of you are going to cool off slightly here over the next couple of days thanks to a cold front that is going to slide southward. But what I can guarantee is we have plenty of sunshine to look forward to in the coming days, and it does look to remain mainly dry. For tonight in the metro, temperatures are going to be dropping down to the low 60s under partly cloudy skies out there. Temperatures elsewhere getting down into the mid-50s. In Oceanside, Escondido getting down to 54 degrees for you. Ramona, 51. Borrego Springs getting down to 68 degrees. Here's that cold front that's going to be arriving as we head into your Tuesday into northern portions of the state. It'll be advancing southward, but not everyone is going to feel the impacts from it. It'll likely be the coastal regions and the areas a little bit further inland that get a cool down, but in the desert and in the mountains, temperatures are generally going to be on the rise. For your Tuesday, temperatures in Oceanside getting up into the mid-70s. San Diego, 74 degrees for you. Borrego Springs getting back up into the triple digits for your daytime highs on your Tuesday. And it looks like that warmth really continues even as we head towards the middle of the work week. The warmth is going to build in again, but we are going to be monitoring the potential for some elevated fire danger as we move through these next couple of days. So near the coast, you'll notice temperatures dropping off from the mid-70s on your Tuesday back into the upper 60s by the end of the work week and heading into the weekend. Not a huge difference, but a little bit of a cool down here. Further inland, temperatures drop off from the mid to upper 80s on Tuesday down into the mid-70s by Saturday. So again, a little bit of a more dramatic cool down here. And in the mountains, temperatures generally going to be on the rise here, back up into the 70s by the time we get to Saturday of next weekend. And not a whole lot of change here in the desert. Triple digit heat out there for your Tuesday, essentially dropping off into the 90s Wednesday and Thursday. And we're back into that triple digit heat for Friday and Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, forced landing. Belarus diverts an international flight to arrest a dissident journalist. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
For long-standing businesses, the COVID-19 pandemic has been brutal. But for restaurants that were just starting out, surviving has been nearly impossible. On this week's City Heights Bites, KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler looks at one restaurant that is not only trying to survive, but thrive as it shakes off losses from the past year.
Dipping sauce.
Ingenuity can not only help a business survive the worst climate for restaurants in recent history,
some of the fried bean curd.
It can also be delicious when it's in the hands of Trang Nong and her co-conspirators at Tan Don Jai, a Vietnamese restaurant that serves only vegan and vegetarian fare.
As you can see around here, the Vietnamese traditional one, it usually comes with the meat, the pork. Like, they don't provide much of the option for the vegetarian and vegan option.
The restaurant opened right before the pandemic, quickly amassing regulars.
Yeah, ngồi tạm đây nha chú.
Who then switched over to pickup and delivery once indoor dining had to shut down. That gave the owner and workers at the restaurant more time to perfect recipes, not trying to just replicate standard Vietnamese dishes, but create their own versions, hinging on creative uses of soy, tofu, and other vegetable substitutes. Take this banh mi, for instance. They not only make their own bread every day, they make their own quote-unquote meat.
For the sandwich, it's really popular because we combine two of the protein in here. One of the barbecue pork, the other one we call is grilled beef pork. Like the sliced one you can see right here. And then the other one is a barbecue one.
Nong, who immigrated from Vietnam a decade ago, says that people looking for Vietnamese food without meat didn't have any options in San Diego. Now, they have one of the most cutting-edge culinary experiences in City Heights, giving even those who grew up eating traditional Vietnamese food a pleasant surprise.
And at first, they really shocked because it tastes exactly like the meat one, the flavor of the broth.
Customers are free to choose a variety of sides and meat substitutes to supplement dishes they can make at home.
A lot of people, they don't have enough time to wait for a little bit to make the food. So they just on the rush, and they just wrap some of the item and then just go home and then heat it up.
While business is still way down from before the pandemic, Nong hopes that as indoor dining resumes this week in the restaurant, there will be way more regulars, looking for food that pushes boundaries while still feeling very much at home in the dynamic food scene of City Heights. Max Rivlin-Adler, KPBS News.
We stream KPBS Evening Edition live on the KPBS YouTube page, and that's where you can also find past episodes and more from our City Heights Bites series. Recent stops include restaurants serving up authentic Ethiopian and Chinese comfort food. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.